my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for
Welcome to Secular Panthers, GSU's Fellowship of Free-Thinking, Agnostic, or otherwise secular students, where all faiths are welcome, and our only sacred truth is that there are no sacred truths.
I thought the sacred truth is
Gotta love paradoxes.
Yeah, see? So it's kind of like cutting itself down.
I thought love is the only truth.
Possibly. We did have that discussion. I'm inclined to agree with you. I think that's love can be pretty sacred. So tonight, we're going to talk about religion and politics in the age of hello.
Hello there.
It's the hell out of it.
Who is hello?
Also, feminism is broken.
They said everything gets in there, sugar and everything.
I forgot who made the song. I have the song.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I did, but I
You
was
do it
like,
afterwards. So tonight, we're going to talk about religion and politics in the age of Trump. Our fantastic member, Maurice Cashin, is going to
I love
tell
you.
us about this interesting topic that's been going on in our world. So we've got a couple of announcements before we get into the main topic of things. So first, there is the first openly transgender state lawmaker elected in Virginia.
Yeah, that's all.
Go, go, yay!
In the South, no less.
Virginia doesn't really count.
They say that's different from
I mean,
the
yeah.
Virginia's extended DC.
Yeah.
Kind of is.
Oh yeah, so who did she beat? She beat the guy that originally authored the bathroom privacy bill thing.
Fuck
So
yeah!
it's like,
Nice.
to the man.
Take that scum down.
Very cool.
And he also
She's
called
cute.
himself the chief homophobe of Virginia. So
Got him out of his position. Yeah.
Wait, say one more time what it's the first. It's the first transgender candidate in Virginia. Is it the first in the whole country at that level, or how's that?
it's openly elected.
The first openly transgender candidate elected to serve in a state legislative body. So I'm assuming that it's any kind of official state position. Okay, great. Good on you, America.
Yay!
Or at least Virginia.
Yes.
This is Virginia, yeah, that's what I'm for here, states. Yeah,
We're all young to find
I suppose
ourselves.
that's everything I've been out here.
So let's take a little infographic video.
She's cute.
Just to get rid of all the other
Soundtrack. God.
That's still right.
Person who's ever been singled out, who's ever been stigmatized, who's ever been the misfit, who's ever been the kid in the corner, who's ever needed someone to stand up for them when they didn't have a voice of their own because there's no one else who's with them. This one's for you.
I love you. I don't know who you are, but I'm in love with you. I'm in love. I want to
So
do
that
that.
happened. Good job, America. So today is also the 150th birthday of Marie Curie. Among other things, won 2 Nobel Prizes, one in chemistry, one in physics, discovered an element. Really badass. And I thought that this was kind of pertinent to what we were discussing today. Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more, so that we may fear less.
She was better in Fallout 4.
Yeah?
Yeah.
She was in Fallout 4?
Yeah, Curie.
Oh, nice.
That's who she was based off of. French accent's really smart.
But she's not even French.
Of course she's not.
Her discoveries are pretty rad.
Yes. Yes.
They're
Radiation and everything.
They're pretty radioactive.
The funds are bad.
Yes, that's excellent.
No, she was not in more ways than one.
Yes,
I love that. Thank you, Joseph. I'm in love with you, Joseph.
what else? So next Friday we are having a joint co-event with ex-Muslims of North America, which should be really cool. It's called Normalizing Dissent is the name of their tour, and specifically what they're going to be talking about at our school is fighting Allah, defending Muslims. So that should be pretty interesting. We're going to start posting flyers like tomorrow, so hopefully that'll be cool. Sure.
Oh, this is separate from the Wednesday event.
Yes. Yeah, so the Wednesday event, we might not have a meeting next week because there's this really awesome mental health open forum discussion going on at exactly that time. And there's also the event,
This same thing in Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech, yeah. So I know Maurice wanted to go to the Georgia Tech thing, and that's cool. I think it was good we have representation.
That mental.
What is the first thing you mentioned?
There is a mental health discussion going on from 6 to 9 p.m. So a few of us wanted to go for like an hour or so of that. That would be kind of fun. So when did this become blasphemous? At what point does the stick figure become an artifact in blasphemy?
What's the difference between the last two?
Yeah.
Oh, just the name.
I think yeah.
It's like, and
That could just be a regular bearded man versus Muhammad.
Well, I mean, you know, which Muhammad is it though? There's some.
the Muhammad.
The Muhammad that made the
Basically.
name Muhammad popular.
Peace be
Yep.
upon you. Yes. It's the
May peace be
yes, peace be upon all of you. I think that would be a good thing to say. I would like people to be peaceful. So yep, normalizing dissent, fighting Allah, defending Muslims. I love that name. So here are the people that are going to be speaking. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but we have the founder of Ex-Muslims in North America, which I think is pretty cool. Do you want to tell us about the other two speakers?
I know Sean, him, I saw him on BBC. That's how I first learned about him. He was in a BBC documentary about kind of like Islam. They had a lot of different like people. Like, they had like a convert, like a Western convert, and then they had some ex-Muslims, and he was one of the people on there.
I know, right? Holy crap, that's cool.
And then this other guy, I've seen his Twitter. His Twitter's pretty interesting. So.
It looks so sharp though.
Armin Malavi.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, founder of the Atheist Republic, which is kind of cool.
Where is the organization?
Where is it?
Yeah.
It's on Facebook.
Well, it's not a real.
Oh no, it's not like a country.
I was thinking, like, you know where my new home is.
Republic.
We should start a micronation.
That's not. That's
Hey,
hard.
Israel can get their nation, we can too.
Yeah, we can incorporate. our
Well, I
backyard.
mean,
Let's just
Speaking
do
of
that
the
thing that they
diplomats-
did in like Britain on the river. They built a fucking platform called a country, and now it's a country.
The city of London, you mean?
Cityland. Cityland.
Oh.
Cityland. Sealand.
See, the city of
If you
London.
look it up, it's just ridiculous. Didn't they attack?
The city of London. I know what you're talking
I
about.
think they sent SWAT or something to
Anyway.
Sealand to take it back over, and they failed.
Well, speaking as a diplomat, getting us recognized by the UN would be really hard, and we would need friends and allies and everything like that.
Hey, we have secular groups around the
Who
world.
needs friends and allies when we have logic and science?
I mean, but like they won't recognize us. They'll treat us like
We have
Catalonia.
other micronations recognized.
That doesn't mean anything.
It's like the Kurds.
Is there a polite way to
Yeah,
tell
they
people
recognize
they've dedicated their lives to
territories.
religion? Should offense over ideas matter?
Other nations.
These are good questions.
Mhm.
So, the
Other
panel of
nations
ex-Muslims
matter.
will discuss the tension between advocating for reason while keeping the civil liberties and humanity of Muslims paramount. So there are some people that argue for the abolishment of all religions and think that anyone who participates in religion is foolish. There are people who think that. So I suspect we might hear from some of them, and people might have different opinions. So come voice your opinions and have audience dialogue. I think it should be pretty fun. So NAMI at GSU, it's coming to GSU. Andy, would you like to tell us about this
let's tell you guys
organization?
about it.
Excellent.
Okay, so I am starting a group next semester called NAMI. And if you're not familiar with NAMI, NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's one of a few different groups that works with people with and without mental illness. And I feel like we don't have really good mental health awareness club on campus right now. Yeah, I know what I just said.
You just threw shade at that.
So what the goal of this group is, I would like to start peer support groups. So if you're living with a mental illness on campus or not, and you would like to be a part of a peer support group, that's what this group is going to do. NAMI does all the training for that. They also have family and friends support groups. So if you have a family member or a friend who's living with a mental illness and you just don't know what to do sometimes, there's support groups for that, and they can tell you, how to be the best friend or family member for that person. We also look to host a whole bunch of different activities and provide a lot of different resources on campus for different groups, including LGBTQ groups, veterans, students who are homeless, and several other groups who need resources about mental illness but are not really able to get it. So if you'd like more information about this group, I would love if you would sign up. I need 8 members to start the charter process. So if you would like to be a member, or if you just want to help me out and get the charter process going, you can put your name, your Panther ID, and your student email on here. And I promise I won't spam you with a bunch of email. This is just to get the charter process going and to see if there are members, people who are interested in becoming members. But that's the goal of this group, is to just promote mental health and awareness on campus and provide supports to everybody possible. So, yeah.
So they want to ask, how do you intend for this to differ from Active Minds?
Active Minds doesn't have support groups. Active Minds does discussions mostly with people on campus who are allies of those with mental illness and not actually with people who have mental illness. And Active Minds is not going to provide the types of resources that we're going to provide for all students. I also intend for this to be different because I would like for us to do, since NAMI is a national organization, I would like for us to do and participate in a lot of NAMI's national and Georgia and local events. They always have different events. There's a national convention in New Orleans next year that we can go to. The Georgia convention is actually looking for speakers, so I would love to get some student members who are succeeding or not succeeding on campus with mental illness so that we can bring that attention to NAMI Georgia and see if there are other things that they can do to help students on campus with mental illness. And then NAMI also has a humongous portion of their national group that is solely dedicated to training police officers, faculty, and staff on how to deal with people with mental illness so that you don't have incidents like the Georgia Tech shooting recently, where a student who is clearly suicidal and going through a crisis at the moment was shot and killed because the officer didn't know how to deal with mental illness. So I would like to do that training on campus as well and have the national or Georgia NAMI organization come in and start training campus police because as students we need our faculty, staff, and police officers to understand what we're going through. So that's how it's going to be different from Active Minds. So.
I'm all for mental
Not
health.
bashing them in any way. I would love to partner with them, and by doing that, we can raise so much more awareness. And there are plenty of other groups on campus that I would love to partner with to help raise awareness. But if you're interested, please let me know. Give me your ID and your email, and then I will let you know. We're going to start having meetings next semester, so early next semester, because we're still going through the chartering process. So, please email me any questions.
Mental health is important.
Mental health.
Great.
Particularly support groups. I feel like
Yes.
that's not.
Therapy is good, you guys.
Well, and I know we have a counseling center here, but it's different when it's a peer support group versus like an adult kind of telling you what to do. So I kind of
Still, I would recommend the counseling and counseling center. if you go.
yeah,
because
of
it's-
course.
The few
But-
times I've gone,
Sometimes peers can handle each other, they have totally similar experiences.
And I really like the idea of
Look at the
family and
someone
friends
has
support
had
groups
an issue.
because, growing up, my brother had severe depression, and as a family member, like, my parents didn't even know what to do. So
she had issues
what
like
resources can I get for my son? He's over 18, so I can't, like, do anything legally. So it's kind of nice to know what resources you can have to help friends and family.
Anxiety.
Those unfortunate. Yeah, those governments don't have to hanging themselves sometimes. There's so much punching.
Mental health needs to be discussed more.
It does, that's what I want to do. So I have some great ideas for events that we're gonna do that, again, are totally different from anything that's been done on campus before.
How easy will the charter process be? My friend created a gaming club, a game development club charter, and he said it was hell.
Really?
Yeah, but it might just be for a specific organization.
I think the only problem I might run into is that there is Active Minds on campus and there are mental health focus groups, but since our purposes and what we're actually going to do is completely different, I think that should be okay.
Okay.
And then I've got Michael helping me start this because he started
Michael knows
human
what's up.
machines and
No.
so
We got this
I've got
collaboration.
Serena helping me.
We're gonna make this happen.
So we're gonna, I don't know, if your friend has any suggestions, let me know.
Will do.
Let me know who to talk to. So,
Also,
I will,
we need to get the officers.
I will definitely hit you up with more questions.
yes.
Officers.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no worries. That's great. This is very good.
Mental health is important, you
This is
guys.
super important.
Maybe she got busy or something.
If you're not on our OrgSync page, you should totally.
Okay,
take
or
part. I know, but
Yeah,
how,
like,
how
you're
our
right.
college determines our funding is by OrgSync. And I know it's terrible. I don't like OrgSync. But
I hate it.
What do we have to do? Do we have to like follow?
Yeah.
I think it's
really
like
not.
you find it and request to join it. You just request and you're automatically joined. It used to be set up where I had to approve you, but now you can just sign it.
Actually,
most people
That
don't
makes
know.
sense. Some more
Like,
budget.
when it comes to clubs, I didn't even know that our anime club had a
Some
OrgSync
of them
just us follow until
updated their calendar.
someone actually is like, apparently was like, someone told what you
Great
do.
founder, great honored founder showed us.
Yes.
Great honored founder.
Great honored
Who
founder.
was great honored founder?
Like the.
Todd.
Todd Nolan?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
great honored daddy.
Excellent.
Remember that he's always disappointed in you.
He is.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So Human Machines, we are going to have a meeting this Friday in the X Lab. So it's Arts and Humanities building, the second floor in the very back where we used to have our entrance examinations. They took out all the stupid computers.
everyone had them there.
Oh, well, where I had my entrance examinations, they took out all those stupid computers and put some really nice computers and virtual reality systems and 3D printers and everything that is free for students for like as long as you want to print things, and it's like a ridiculously good deal. You should check it out. Like free 3D printing.
What am I gonna do? But what are we gonna
Free?
do?
For
Yeah,
real?
because we couldn't figure out how to do the payments, so they're like, "I just give it to everyone for free." So, yeah, if you guys want to send anything,
Can we 3D print limbs?
Yes, yeah. Oh, it's fancy you mentioned that, which is exactly what we're trying to do. So we are going to have a meeting on Friday. So I invited recipients to the meeting, and the person who's working with her said that she's going to talk to her family to see if she can come on Friday, and if they can, we can take measurements and actually start working on some of these designs. So I'll keep you guys posted. If not, then we can just go ahead and keep printing things, because we have to get better at this fidelity. Of our
Where's it going to be?
It's going to be in the Arts and Humanities Building, room 200.
Okay.
Yes.
And that picture reminds me of the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh,
Yeah.
you talking about the picture?
The next.
Yes.
We have to give credit whoever made that.
No fire.
I got Yeah. Great. So that's all we have for announcements. Let's get into the main event of the night. We have Mr. Maurice Hushin.
Mr. Maurice?
Some very interesting stuff. Maurice, all right.
You can do this, honey.
So here's our topic today, religion, politics, and the age of Trump. I really love Trump just doing this as his signature thing. Okay, first of all, we're talking about civic nationalism because we didn't talk about this the last time we discussed about nationalism, and we have to mention this. So basically, we talked a lot about ethno-nationalism, which is kind of like based on ethnic group. And I think we remember John Green's whole thing about a mythologized political meaning. Civic nationalism is a variant of nationalism that values the notion of citizenship over ethnic or cultural forms. So basically, it doesn't matter what race you are, what religion, what language, but as long as you call yourself an American citizen, you are welcome into, I guess, the civic nationalist brotherhood. Any thoughts about that? Any quick thoughts? Where's this go this way?
So this leaves open the question of what requirements one should have to meet to become a citizen.
Yeah, essentially just be a U.S. citizen and be
Right.
a proud American.
And I'm proud to
If we're talking about America, should we have that? What do you call it? Birthright citizenship? But other countries don't, and then
Jus Soli and then
Yeah.
Jus Sangui.
Yeah.
So how do you like quantify or figure out if somebody is like, yes, I love America? Like,
Well, I guess this gets into patriotism versus nationalism. Nationalism kind of has, I guess, a more negative connotation to it, as they kind of discuss it in that video with the Japanese.
Yeah.
The white man is the Japanese wife.
I feel if you call America your home, you're basically much a U.S. citizen. You see it as like your home and where you like existed.
but like, what if you live here and you don't have the means to live somewhere else? But you're like, I hate this place. I want to burn it to the ground.
Well,
You
then,
can always
I'm just saying.
Well,
are
you
you
can
still
always
still
expatriate
all right,
yourself.
those people exist.
You can always expatriate
Hey,
yourself. Just like when you have to
Any other thoughts?
yeah.
I'm
So
just
finishing your point. Like so we have like birthright citizen, then you can easily limit who is a citizen or not, or should be based on that. But other countries who don't have that per se have other means of determining this, like Japan, which needs to be like.
You have to be one of your parents has to be a Japanese citizen,
Right.
and then like also Israel and like Korea have this thing where if one of you, especially Korea, if one of your parents is a Korean citizen, you automatically get Korean citizenship until a certain age.
So then, it might be difficult to divorce notions of like ethnic.
Well, because civic nationalism doesn't really care for, say, a country like Australia or
I'd say more Korea. Those would be civics.
Those are like the civic nationals you have. Because you've been raising them for a while.
Oh yeah, so and the way I've always understood it, and like patriotism has been these days more turned into nationalism, but like a long time ago, patriotism used to be more about the ideals of freedom, which the reason why it became the nationalism because America, freedom.
Yeah, I can see how that evolved.
But now people are now voting just because I love America, just because America. Place I was born instead of I love America because of the things it gives me. Yeah.
Yeah, but what about language? Because like, how can you divorce language from nationalism if like one of the requirements to be a U.S. citizen is to have a proficient language level of English?
That's just efficiency, really.
Proficiency. You can speak Spanish or like any other language at home and be like multilingual, but as long as
it's more from the fact that like most people here speak English, and therefore it's like giving you a leg up in the business. Because if everybody was speaking different languages, no one would understand each other. It'd be really hard to get together. And as much as it sucks,
I'm sorry, but we have to go focus on the other slides.
yeah.
So this is going to be like a little icebreaker. Where were you when you realized Trump was going to win in the election? What was your reaction? I'm going to start with me and we're going to go this way.
Yeah.
So I was at my house. I was watching on my tablet. I was watching the David Pakman show and basically his analysis of the election. And basically it's kind of like a live stream. And I was like, oh no, Michigan. It was like, oh my God, because I was watching that state because that state has not voted for a Republican in the presidential election since 1992. And so it's like, oh my God, this is happening. This is happening. So what happened was I ended up going to sleep and I'm like, screw it, whatever. I wake up next morning and my whole family's like crowded on the TV and we're watching and there's like Chris Cuomo and he's just like, oh yeah, and it's on CNN. Yeah, Donald Trump is president. We're just
What?
we're all going in a circle.
Yes, so I was the night before, and I had the Google page that said like, oh, he's won so many districts, and I just went to bed because I didn't even care. And I woke up the next morning, and it was replaced by Donald Trump is the next president of the United States. That's how it happened for me. Very uneventful. Like happy days.
I think I texted you that.
I was at home not trying to follow this because I was kind of hoping if I didn't follow it, he'd not win, but yeah, it didn't work out.
So if you did follow it, what did you lose?
I mean,
yeah, maybe.
Okay. We were sitting in a bar together watching things come in, and then we went home around I think midnight or so.
Yeah. What was your reaction?
Pretty incredulous.
I like your shirt.
Oh, thank you.
As he said, we were sitting at a bar when we were watching the election. However, I worked at a retail store, and we had like these huge TVs, and that was when they were starting to count the votes. And Donald Trump was like already like it was like 2% of the votes had been counted, but in some states, but he was already like in the lead, and I kind of already knew he was. I don't know. I just always knew he was gonna win, but not to say I wanted it to happen, but I just always had this.
You had the sneaky suspicion.
I had a sneaky suspicion.
See, I was at my dorm. I woke up in the morning after seeing he was getting a lead. I was like, whatever. Woke up in the morning, saw that he won. And I was just like, whatever. Because I mean, to me, nothing's really changed. I mean, you look at Hillary. It's like, sure, she's never said she gropes a man or a woman like that, and she'd never tried to say that Obama wasn't an actual citizen. But I mean, if you look at corruption, I mean, especially with stuff going up, she rigged the DNC and shit like that. I mean, to me, it's like, oh, we traded Hitler for Stalin. Good job, guys. You really won America. It's a show. So it's like, to me, it's kind of like, okay, sure.
Nothing has changed.
Yeah, I don't see the butthurt over it.
I mean,
I was in my bed because I didn't want to watch. Good. I woke up in the middle of the night and checked my phone and went back to sleep.
wow.
And it's like,
Well, that's
things kind of numb at the moment.
that was different from me. I was on NPR just saying like, because like they show you a map and like which state is getting which, and then I was just starting to have a panic attack, and I was like, "This is happening. This is happening." And I just had, like, then I went downstairs and like saw he was getting lead, and I just had to take a walk and just accept the reality. And the next day it was just like, "Oh, this is a thing now. I guess we have to accept it."
And go to school the next day.
Oh gosh.
I was at my friend's place, not much special there. I just remember when I saw that he was getting like over 30% of the incoming vote in Virginia, because I know Virginia's like more democratic than the rest of the South. I'm like, okay, we have a problem. we have a problem. They're like almost always democratic. And I was in shock for a really long time. But with that whole not my president thing the day after, that gave me a whole lot of hope. Like, a lot of people feel the same way. So maybe this will spark some political,
Hopefully.
not uprising, but strong enough opposition to like completely disallow him to do all of the stuff he wants to do.
Yeah, that goes back to our first slide we talked about.
Kind of
That was part of
that.
the predicted
I think this
wave
president
in the
is
2018 midterm. So if you want that, you have to vote in your local elections. That's always important. Vote down ballot. Everyone focuses on the presidential level. You gotta focus on the down ballot too. I argue that's more important since that's who actually like affects our local policy.
Excuse me. I realized that Trump was gonna win. I was chilling at a friend's house a couple of months even before Election Day when the James Comey FBI scandal broke out. At that moment, I just figured like Hillary Clinton is too much of a liability. This is before we now, in hindsight, realize that she was the Democratic Party. She had it from top to bottom, from start to finish. And I already figured that Hillary Clinton was just unelectable at that time. I think it was back in September when the October, yeah, my bad. Yeah, it was around October when the FBI scandal first hit. And by the way, I still think she should be indicted for that. Charged for that. Among the war crimes and all that other crap.
That's definitely a crime.
I knew back then.
That's just for democracy.
But then it was crystallized when I went to this watch party at the gathering spot with one of my close friends named Chris. We stayed the whole night and watched just Trump win the whole Midwest.
Oh yeah, he wouldn't. A lot of states you wouldn't expect turned red.
You know, the funniest part was the applause that we both heard at the gathering spot when Clinton won California. Which lets me know that folks don't really know politics for real.
California's always blue.
Yeah, the California stays blue. So of course Hillary was gonna win. You know,
like Hillary's always gonna win like the metropolitans.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that just sort of confirmed what I had already known. I just laughed my ass off because
I pretended to be Canadian.
What about you, Mom?
Well, I was in my first class and I got a text on my dad saying Trump won. I was like, wait, what? I was like, so I looked up on the internet. I was like, he won. I was like, oh shit. I kind of felt like crying. I don't know. I don't even know, honestly.
Did you pretend to be Canadian?
I wanted to be I don't even know, somewhere else completely, honestly,
Canada,
rather than America.
I kind of had expected it, mostly because we previously had Barack Obama as president, and I knew people were pissed about that still. And then the fact that Hillary was doing all this sketch stuff in the first place, we had that, and I was like, I was getting ready to vote, like, the day, voting day. And I had this sense, like, whatever I want is not going to happen. And lo and behold.
Yeah.
For me, when it happened, I mean, I think the general reaction was shock. to everybody. But I think what I remember most about it is not like going to sleep all sad and waking up sad, because that happened. But the next morning, I think it was just to see the look on everyone's faces at school, and how like even the teachers and like the students, and it was just, I don't know, it felt nice to be going to an institution that was supportive rather than somewhere out, so it was nice to have that atmosphere. And ever since, I think that mood has, I guess, triggered a lot of revolt and protest and, being outspoken, which I don't know if it would have happened if Hillary was president. So I think it's good.
Yeah.
We should focus on the positive.
Definitely.
So I realized it, I guess, maybe like a couple months before, there was a video put out on YouTube called Everything is Wrestling by Eli Bosnick. And I watched that video and I went, oh my God, everything is wrestling and Donald Trump is going to become president of the United States. So the night of the election, I was like, maybe if I don't watch it happen, it won't happen. It happened, and then NPR woke me up. Donald Trump, president-elect of the United States.
You should have watched it.
Spicy. Big words ever.
He's not any spiciness.
I
He's
knew,
German.
I kind of figured long before the election that he would win, just because I know how easy it is to con people into voting against their self-interest, and he was really good at that. And then just all the stuff with Hillary towards the end, especially the coming tape just a few weeks before, I knew she was going to lose. So I watched until like maybe midnight of the election, and then I just figured that since he was still in the lead, he's probably going to win. And the next morning, he won. And I just kind of felt like, oh shit.
I actually have a good story. Remember in our global issues class when we talked about that?
Yeah, Danny, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Takes the vacuum out of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would love
We had
to
a really long conversation. Trumpianity.
Our God Emperor!
The God Emperor has come.
Praise.
Prepare the casino scum.
Praise
Maurice.
So I agree, and I asked some of the folks because I hear this is a major theme right here. But 2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians 3:17.
I don't think that's how you Bible.
Where the Spirit of the Lord, right? Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And here there is liberty. No, it's liberty. Okay, we're going to watch several clips and talk about them together because I think that would be the best way. So this is at the RNC. This happened right after the Pulse nightclub shooting, so there's some context you need for what he's going to say.
Only weeks ago, in Orlando, Florida, 49 wonderful Americans were savagely murdered by an Islamic terrorist. This time, the terrorist targeted LGBTQ community. No good. And we're going to stop it.
Why is she wearing a cowboy hat though?
Texas, big ass, big hair, big dude,
big ass.
That was maybe the weakest applause.
As your president, I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology. Believe me.
What is this man? I don't like the fact that he banned trans people from the
I mean, to be fair, even though he bans trans people, if he quits on the right now, who's going to support him? The left's not there for him. They never were. They're never going to join him. So he has to keep his.
And I have to say, as a Republican, it is so nice to hear you cheering for what I just said. Thank you.
If I didn't think you were Cuban Spanish, let me have this. He's human garbage. So.
Yeah, and also at the level
That's
of
not
mention, they have
false.
Peter
That is
Thiel,
good stuff.
who's a gay billionaire.
Peter Thiel,
Yeah,
yeah.
Peter Thiel. So there's a little bit of the, okay, now this article. Do we just click on
Yep, just click and it'll take you. Oh, on the picture, my bad.
So like,
You click on the picture.
it? All right, so this is from the Washington Post. This
Washington.
What? No, just cancel that shit.
All right, somebody go. So, yeah. So this is an article from the Washington Post. They're asking, this is during the primaries. Well, this is based because the big controversy with Ted Cruz was basically the evangelical candidate. Donald Trump was not. And basically, if you remember the campaign, Ted Cruz insulted Donald Trump for having New York values. Basically, is synonymous with liberal values, but Donald Trump fired back in the best way possible by saying the values that brought people together and helped each other after 9/11. So, I have to say, Donald Trump laid the hammer. So basically,
I hate you,
think
but
it's
still,
some shit research.
Orange voice strikes again.
So
DJ Johnny
basically,
Trump.
they're talking about, oh, where's the religious vote going to? And is it not showing?
No, I think.
Well,
that's
that's
disappointing,
super
right?
text.
Yeah, but it's not showing, like, what's
Oh, because you have to X out of that, whatever that.
Yeah, you might have to sign in or subscribe to see the chart.
But this is trying to see a chart.
I don't know.
You know,
Yes.
Yeah,
This is the only way they make money.
that's true.
Washington Post
Yep,
hates that.
of course.
This is the Washington Post.
I don't know, there's
Gotta
nothing
respect
A lot of
it.
websites hate
Pictures
that.
on the internet.
We're just gonna
So
pause
true.
that slide.
Google it.
Oh no, just control shift and find that. Oh wait, I don't. He's using a
Oh, there we go.
There we
Ah,
go.
there it
Awesome.
is.
So this is basically from Pew, the evangelical support of GOP candidates in the fall. Basically on church, depends on church attendance. So Trump got like the people who don't really, the Republicans that don't really go to church or barely go to church. And as you can tell, as it goes down, it declined over how frequently you go to church. Compared to like Cruz and Ben Carson, the more likely you go to church, the more likely you vote for those guys. And basically, the green ones are all the establishment candidates. So
I thought Bush had a chance.
we all
No.
But we
I like-
realize-
He was too flaccid.
I liked.
Oh, just move down to the bottom.
Are you talking about his dick size?
No, but I get that would work good.
I thought that was it.
Wait, flaccid is a big size.
Flaccid means like when it's not red.
I know, right?
That's it.
I like.
There we go. That's
You okay? Man?
so what do you think about all that? That there was this speculation of all this Trump thing and then everything about being less religious in the primaries.
Well, it goes against the usual stereotype of like a Trump supporter being like heavy Bible thumpers, quoting Bible quotes at you, because that's what people would expect. But in reality, the truth is such. There is a saying: the truth is stranger than fiction, and this proves it.
Yeah, that goes with that as well. Even though Trump still wanted to eat a plurality of evangelicals.
I doubt that your reasoning quite holds up. I think it's very likely that a lot of these people who hardly ever go to church at all still love to quote the Bible.
Yeah.
No, but the image of a Trump supporter is like they know they're like hardcore Bible, which is like smacking you in your face.
2 Corinthians.
Yeah, and this is just proving that like they're not as hard Bible thumpers as you think they are.
I'd be curious to see what percentage of evangelicals actually go to church to begin with.
Oh yeah,
So if like 90% of them don't go to church, then it's hard to
Yeah. So even accounting for just the overall drop off in religious worship attendance over the past maybe 15 to 30 years, once again that just crystallizes the embarrassing loss of Hillary Clinton, who is a certified like Baptist Christian. Like she grew up in a Baptist household, going to church and stuff like that. And she's a very pious religious woman. And not to mention, as we mentioned earlier, controlled the whole Democratic Party, and she still lost. And she still lost to a reality game show host when she could have just quoted multiple parts of the Bible, which she knows very well, and could have used that to leverage some more support. Hell, even could have pulled some Trump supporters if she just used the Bible.
I disagree. I mean, like at that point, both of them are religious. Just go with the one that you believe in most. I mean, if Hillary quoted the same amount of Bible verses that Trump did, what would have changed? She would have pulled maybe 1% party line.
No, I agree. As a matter of fact, like when it came to the debates, that's probably one of the first things she should have done, even before the debates. Maybe it was too late by the time the third debate happened and we got closer, then the FBI scandal hit, and then just everything just piled on from there. So I do agree with you. I think it's just a scale of timing that we may diverge.
Yeah.
I say she should have started off with that as one of her strong suits, and it could have,
One way I think she could have kicked ass with Christians is like if at the beginning of these debates she had said was like, I'm going to hold a moment of prayer with my opponent. Shows that she's got some humility and done that. That would probably would have changed it.
Hillary Clinton ain't gonna do that shit.
I mean, yeah, which is why she lost too. Another reason why she lost. They can't agree with each other on anything, so of course they're just two hating sides.
Yeah,
it's
like
either you're
two
with the
narcissists going at. Come on.
I think we should move on.
Yeah,
but it would have changed. People thought about it.
Guys, I think we should move on.
Yeah.
Trump is taking the atmosphere.
That's what Trump does.
So this is from.
It's about politics.
See you man. Enjoy.
See you later, alligator.
So this is from USA Today, and this is so slow.
Glad you downloaded
the videos. This would have not
It's horrible.
Come on.
George
Can
State
we
likes
just
no
get
one.
the video?
The video should be on there. Wait, let's go back to the PowerPoint.
Do you think I know how to make it?
Oh, I think it just loaded.
I can do it.
Yeah. You click on the photo. Yep.
Alright, so this is about the Johnson Amendment. If you don't know what that is, this video will basically explain it.
Sweetie.
An alert from Wells Fargo.
Thanks.
Put the ad block back on.
Breaking ads.
Oh, the cat made it better.
Can we just deport the ads?
But why are we going to deport them?
President Donald Trump signed a new so-called religious liberty executive order that will greatly broaden what people can opt out of due to religious exemptions. Trump said it will let people practice their faith more openly. The bill extends religious exemptions to government employees and members of organizations like private companies. That means those people can opt out of their job functions if they feel it conflicts with their beliefs. The ACLU has called the measure a license to discriminate. It believes the measure will allow people to refuse services to members of the LGBTQ community. The order is a big win for Vice President Mike Pence, a staunch social conservative. He passed a similar measure while governor of Indiana, but added LGBTQ protections after heavy criticism. The order also makes changes to the Johnson Amendment, a measure that bars religious organizations, which are tax exempt, from supporting political candidates. Dozens of religious organizations sent a letter to Congress in support of the Johnson Amendment, telling the legislature, do not politicize our houses of worship. They also expressed the fear that churches could spring up with the purpose of funneling money to political candidates. Trump signed the order on the National Day of Prayer.
There's a National Day of Prayer.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm really bad at religion.
Don't worry, every other day is against prayer. So,
What's up, you beautiful bastards? Hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday. Welcome back. What's up, you beautiful bastards? Hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday. Welcome back to the Phil Franco Show, and let's just jump into it. The first thing I want to talk about today, oddly, one of the most requested stories of the day today is Kylie Jenner is back in the news for, well, essentially the same reason she's been in the news several times over the past few months. She's being...
We're going to click on this.
Let's not watch Philip DeFranco.
But Kylie Jenner.
Well, we have to. We'll figure something out. So we'll just leave you.
Oh, we're not going to discuss that.
Dude,
you're gonna have your thing.
Oh, yeah. Wait, I gotta reopen it.
So wait, does that bill, does it allow Kim Davis to do what she was wanting to do, or?
I don't, because she works for the government. That's why.
Oh wait, this reminds me.
But say if you're a baker, you need to know.
I mean, that seems kind of right, doesn't it? I mean, private businesses, you can serve whoever you want.
There's an argument to be said, if that in the free market takes over, if you don't like a big person you view bigger, you don't spend your money there.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you're the one who's limiting your own way to sell stuff. Good job, you're an idiot.
I mean, that's
about the transgender.
valid because
Alexis, you have something to
for
say?
me, my issue with the whole people not being allowed to sell to the queer community is that they still have to sell to other minorities. They still have to. They can't, deny somebody buying their product because they're black or because they're a woman or because of their religion, but they can for gays. So it's definitely a double standard.
Of course it is.
So
And they have the freedom to do that. I mean, I'm not saying that they're morally correct. And I'm not, but to force someone to just agree with what you want to believe in, I mean, that's a dick move.
I'm not
And
arguing.
I completely support you. And if I was in charge of a business, I would sell to you regardless of like what gender you were, what color your
I'm
skin
not
was.
talking about them having double standard. I'm talking about the law having double standard.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
when
true.
In 1964, when the Civil Rights Act was passed and segregation became illegal, there's been laws since then that says you can't discriminate against certain people in the business. So I'm thinking, if you want to discriminate against gay people, then repeal the 1964 amendment and make it all equal.
That's
Instead
not
of
right.
Yeah, I mean,
you
that's
shouldn't be
outdated
able-
at this
You
point.
shouldn't be able to discriminate against certain minorities, but not other minorities.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so that's
Yeah.
That's fair. I think we should.
This reminds me of when gay marriage was legalized, and a lot of people, coworkers at my job, wanted to pass a Religious Freedom Act because they felt really uncomfortable with LGBTQ folks being able to get married. I don't know. They're like
So
religious
anyway,
freedom.
Philip DeFranco wants to talk about something else.
Then let's talk about Donald Trump's controversial announcement regarding the U.S. military. If you didn't see, Donald Trump took to Twitter this morning to announce a change in the U.S. military around transgender Americans. Trump tweeted, "After consultation with my generals and military experts, please be advised that the United States government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the U.S. military. Our military must be focused on decisive and overwhelming victory and cannot be burdened with the tremendous medical cost and disruption that transgender in the military would entail. Thank you." Now, this decision reverses a policy approved by the Defense Department under Obama. In June of 2016, the then Secretary of Defense Ash Carter lifted the ban on transgender service members. Now, that was supposed to take place July 1st, 2017. That was delayed by the new Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, who pushed it to January 1st, 2018. But now, well before that January 1st date, we are hearing from the President on this topic. And as of right now, around the situation, the exact how and when, it's not clear. Secretary of Defense General Mattis is currently on vacation. A Pentagon spokesman referred all questions around this to the White House. There are approximately 250 open transgender people in the U.S. military. What happens with them now? Are they being booted? Are they being discharged? Are they going to be eligible for benefits? There are also people calling bullshit on President Trump's claim of the tremendous medical costs. There's a study done by the RAND Corporation, which was commissioned by the Defense Department, that estimated that there are just under 2,500 transgender personnel in the active component, and estimated just over 1,500 in selected reserve. Although you may have also seen a 15,000 number, that seems to be coming from the National Center for Transgender Equality. They claim that there are 15,000 transgender people in the U.S. military. Also, each year they estimate between 29 and 129 personnel would need transition-related health care. Because of all this, the cost for health care in the military would go up $2.4 to $8.4 million a year. And the reason people are calling bullshit on the idea that these are tremendous costs is that when you compare it to the expenditure for health care in the military in 2014, there you have a cost of $49.3 billion. If you wanted to understand that visually, you have this giant gray box and then this tiny $2.4 to $8.4 million. And here's my opinion personally. I agree with the idea that this being a tremendous cost is bullshit, but there is an argument to be had around disruption. There are those that argue that if you were in the middle of transitioning, that would hurt your ability to deploy. Also, I understand why there are arguments and debates on whether U.S. tax dollars should go towards paying for transition. But if you have this American citizen that wants to serve their country, and they are a trans person, and they have passed the physical and mental requirements, why should they not be allowed in? And the people that will say, oh, well, Phil, this isn't about political correctness. No, I don't think that this is about political correctness. It's just weird to me that you have American citizens who are willing to join the U.S. military. They are willing to put their lives on the line. And they are being referred to by their commander-in-chief as a burden, and they're getting kicked out. And the fact that it's coming from a man that never served in the military, let alone had 5 deferments from the Vietnam War, this makes it all that more disgusting to me. But I'll pass the question off to you. I know that there are varying and very passionate feelings about this story. Whether you agree or disagree with me, I want to hear from you. And that's actually where I'm going to end today's show. And remember, if you like this video, you like what I try and do on this channel, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you missed yesterday's Philip DeFranco show, you want to catch up, click your tap right there to watch that. Or if you want to see today's stupid, brand new behind-the-scenes vlog, click your tap right there to watch that. But that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.
You were raising your hand.
I wanted to make a comment. I'm very much involved with many different student political organizations, specifically conservative ones, and I just want to say that contrary to what certain people may believe, 99% of conservatives did not support Trump when he made that proposal.
Yeah, I want to go off on a different limb. That's concerning Mattis.
Didn't he try to do a study? Wasn't he trying to do a study? That's why he voted?
Yeah, so I want to go more in depth on that. I was in ROTC at the time we had this, and we had to follow this every day, and we also had to go through different training as far as like transgender in the military. People in the military do not care whether you're transgender or not. And like Mattis is like, if you actually follow the news, as soon as Trump made that tweet, Mattis was like, yeah, no, fuck that.
Yeah, I saw that, I remember.
Yeah, because Mattis is not Trump. Mattis was like the pick, and is like, I want a guy who actually knows what the fuck he's doing, because regardless of whoever I choose, no one's going to know who the fuck he is. And Mattis is like, despite him, like, he will cave into pressure from the President of the United States, because that is his boss, and if he says no, I mean, court-martial, you're removed all your, like, you can be dishonorably discharged for that, and then he loses the full 40 to 50 years he's worked for. And, like, of course he's going to cave into that, but he's one of the nicer generals that they have there, as in he actually gives a shit about the people who work under him, as opposed to the bottom fucking line. And I'm sorry I'm cursing so much, but it's like something big for me. Like, Mattis isn't the bad guy here. He's just having to do the thing that he's forced to.
I kind of knew that, but thank you for illuminating to everybody who might not know some of those intricacies. Yeah, we're gonna last comment before we go.
Okay. I also think it's very interesting that they're arguing over this small amount of money for healthcare for these individuals, when in general people in the military and veterans don't receive that many benefits and as much health care as they need. So it's like we should really actually be asking how we can improve the health care for everybody in the military overall, not let's take it away from some people.
$80 billion for back.
The New Yorker has a long piece on Mike Pence, and it includes some insider information from the administration. Now, we're not going to go through all of it. A lot of it is stuff that we already know, or at least we've covered on the show previously. For example, he was a cancer truther, or a smoking truther. So he used to argue that, well, we don't really know if smoking cigarettes causes cancer. Did you know that some people who smoke cigarettes don't get cancer? So yeah, maybe it's that cigarettes don't cause cancer. And then, of course, you look back and he took money from big tobacco, so he's a slimy, sleazy motherfucker. By the way, that would have been like strike one, you're out. In a world that made sense and in a system that made sense, that wasn't deeply corrupt. Like, really? So you're on record as saying you don't know if smoking causes cancer, and you took money from big tobacco. That's it. All your credibility's gone, and we'll see you later. Go get a job in the private sector doing something. Don't fucking, you're going to be a politician after you were caught brazenly lying. Nope. He has given speeches on the floor of Congress back when he was a congressperson, where he spoke about how he doesn't believe in evolution and creationism is true, and we should teach that alongside evolution. He dedicated his career to Rush Limbaugh. And the article goes into even his childhood and gets into what it was like in the Pence household and yada, yada, yada. So it's actually a very interesting article, and I recommend you go read it all, but there's a few parts of the article that blew up. And they blew up for understandable reasons. So here we have, this is a piece from the Huffington Post highlighting the parts of the article that I want to share with you. They say the article, entitled The Danger of President Pence, details various viewpoints held by the socially conservative vice president that clash with Trump's. Two sources told the magazine that Trump has teased Pence about his positions on religion, abortion, and the LGBTQ community. Quote, a longtime associate of Trump and Pence was quoted in the article saying that the president likes to let the VP know who's boss, and that Trump asks people who stop by Pence's office, did Mike make you pray? Okay, somebody will go see Mike Pence, and then they'll go meet with Trump. And Trump will joke around and be like, "Oh, that guy make you pray over there?" What a goofball. Now, yeah, that's something I would say, and something I would do if indeed I had somebody. I don't know why I'd have a fundamentalist in my administration. I wouldn't, but yeah, I would be poking fun because it's preposterous, and he is, a Kool-Aid drinker. He actually believes it. He has a stupid rule about, for example, he doesn't. If there's alcohol involved, he will not meet with another woman. He needs his wife to be there. If there's alcohol involved and there's a meeting, even if it's a business meeting with another woman, doesn't matter. Not going to do it, not going to take the meeting because there's alcohol involved and there's another woman. I don't believe in that. So Trump sees that this guy's a real fundamentalist, and he laughs at him and he pokes fun at him. Now, again, that's something you or I might do. Did he make you pray? Donald Trump is the guy who ran. He was telling all the evangelical Christians, "I am with you. Tremendous, believe me. I'm on your side." He went and he gave a speech to Liberty University every 3.5 minutes. These are the people that shored up his campaign. These are the people who don't abandon him even now with his poll numbers tanking. These are the people who he runs to get their approval when everything else is looking shitty. He just gave the speech at the Values Voters Summit. That's these people. So what happened, Trump? It's almost like you're a fucking con artist. And you're scamming people. And your target here is the most gullible people in the country who you know can lend you just enough support to get you over the top in elections. And that's exactly what this is. So, he's poking fun at Pence's religiosity when he was, pretending the whole time, like, "Ah, yes, I am who's so religious. 2 Corinthians walk into a bar." Okay, let's continue. After a legal advisor told Trump and Pence that many states would probably legalize abortion if the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, Trump was said to have turned to Pence. "You see," Trump asked Pence, "you've wasted all this time and energy on it, and it's not going to end abortion anyway." Wow. So this is something you and I can be happy about because it shows that Trump is not committed to a socially conservative agenda where he's like, yeah, number one on the list is get rid of abortion. Now, there's a lot of people, again, who voted for him who believed him when he said he's against abortion and that he cares about this issue and that he'll fight for the so-called pro-life people on this issue. But here he's showing his true colors. He's turning to Mike Pence and saying, "There you go. You're fighting Roe versus Wade. If we get rid of Roe versus Wade, there's still going to be many states across the country that legalize abortion anyway." So he's basically saying, like, why are you wasting your time? Let's move past that. Okay, again, you and I can be happy about that because it shows he's not committed to far-right, socially conservative causes, at least on the front of abortion. But everybody who voted for him should look at this and go, what? So every evangelical, and there were many of them, who picked Trump over Ted Cruz, you fucked up. Yeah. Because Ted Cruz actually believes this shit. Ted Cruz will actually fight for your position. Donald Trump will not. And he's making that clear here. But it gets better. When that meeting shifted to discuss gay rights, according to the article, Trump pointed to Pence and joked, "Don't ask that guy. He wants to hang them all." Pence's press secretary, Alyssa Farah, told Washington Blade reporter Chris Johnson that the New Yorker article was filled with unsubstantiated, unsourced claims that are untrue and offensive. It was unclear whether Farah's statement specifically addressed Trump's joke. Okay. So I added that last part just so you know that the administration is denying it. Of course they deny it. They deny every leak that comes out of there, even ones that are just so clearly, obviously, over the top, accurate, and correct. But wow. So in meetings with other legal experts discussing whatever variety of issues they're focusing on that day, when it gets to the issue of gay rights, Trump turns to Pence and is joking with the other guy in the room and goes, "Don't ask that guy. He wants to hang them all." Okay, that's scary because it's not true that he wants to hang them all, but he doesn't want them to have any rights. So Mike Pence, for those of you who don't know, was most known, before he was picked to be VP, he was most known for being an anti-gay extremist governor in Indiana. So, for example, one of the things he did, he signed a piece of legislation that made it so that businesses can legally discriminate against the LGBTQ community. So if you're a business owner and you find out, hey, my employee is gay, it is perfectly legal for you to say, I'm firing you because of your sexuality. It makes me uncomfortable. So now I'm firing you. If you're a gay person and you go into a diner after your car broke down and you have to hike 2 miles to get to the fucking diner to get some food and you're starving, it is perfectly legal for that diner owner to say, you look a little effeminate, I'm uncomfortable, get out of my store. We don't serve your kind around here. Does that sound familiar? It should sound familiar. So, this is how extreme this guy is. This guy was in favor of a constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage. A constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage. So it's not just that he's not for gay marriage, he wants to put it in the Constitution to say gay people can't have the same rights as straight people. So he is massively anti-gay. Trump knows this. Trump's joking with him about it. Could you imagine, same context, but on the issue of race? If you know, Trump was saying to Pence, don't ask this guy, he wants to kill all the blacks. Man, that sounds disgusting, doesn't it? Or if that was the case with anti-Semitism, don't ask this guy, he wants to kill all the Jews. So why the fuck did you pick him to be VP, you asshole?
Isn't that obvious?
Why'd you pick him? He wants to kill all the gays. Remember when Trump was holding up the fucking LGBTQ flag? Oh yes, gays for Trump. Oh yes, oh yes. But he picked somebody who he knows is one of the most anti-gay politicians in the goddamn country. So again, what's the main point here? Con artist. Speaking out of both sides of his mouth.
Well, doesn't it kind of make sense?
I can tell, like, y'all were laughing. He was funny, wasn't he?
Ultimate insurance policy.
Danny, raise your hand.
Well, doesn't it make sense why you would pick him? So if they ever kick him out, you would have someone worse in office.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd be screwed
So,
either way.
I just want to point out that there was one part I didn't agree with on here when he was saying, he's like, haha, he tricked all you guys who was like saying you should pray, that you have people pray before you enter office. We just saw the graph that said most of the people who supported him don't go to church. Ergo, they're not as crazy religious as him. So, and when it like violently dropped off once it got into Pence territory. So it makes perfect sense that he laughs at Pence when he does that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's funny. I mean, he can, saying he's a con artist, I could agree with that. But he's not the kind of guy who's just going to say, let's just let him take away people's rights. He fucks with them. He says, it's like, look, you're not going to get anything done if you try to take rid of this. It's like, because from my understanding, it's like, we could have Trump or we could have Pence. And it's I would have Trump any day over
Me
Pence.
too.
Any day over Trump.
This kind of goes back to kind of Danny's point. Okay, so you in the moment, but like Danny's point going back, that actually did happen in U.S. history in the 1900s. So the Republican establishment at the time did not want Teddy Roosevelt, who was a progressive at the time. And so basically what they decided to do is, you know what, we're going to put you as VP so you don't have any power. And then he gets assassinated. President McKinley gets assassinated, and Theodore Roosevelt becomes president.
Yep.
So that has happened. So there's precedent for it. Andy, you have something?
Well, I just think it's funny that he's pointing out all of these things that, like, Trump is pandering to different people and picking people around him who are not well liked, but don't all politicians do this? Like, it's like I know we're talking about this specific politician, but like
I agree.
I don't think I've seen a presidential candidate that didn't like purposefully pick somebody around them to get more votes.
Like Bernie and Hillary.
Like
Exactly. I think that's just the nature.
That's just what I'm thinking.
So I just want to, this is quick though, I just want to also point out that what he didn't even go into the deepest part of Mike Pence anti-gay is like, sure, you can put like constitutional and that's the low for him. The high was when he said we should put gays in camps to convert them, like the gay conversion camps.
Oh yeah.
He actually advocated for that. That was not like, he's like, I joked about that and secretly believed it. He publicly said we should have that.
Was this video produced before or after that concentration camp statement?
This was way after. This
Yeah,
is
that's
like
way after the fact?
This is when it
Okay.
had faded from memory and people stopped caring about it because it's
Yeah,
not the news
this happened
anymore.
like
Oh,
a
yeah,
few
yeah, yeah.
weeks or a month back, so this is kind of like how old this article is.
Oh,
So it's pretty-
okay. I just wanted to make a statement that I guess with what I missed with the Johnson Amendment earlier, and then with what he said, it just reminds me that religion has, all religions, not just Christianity, but in my opinion, it has to morph with the times. It has to keep up with all the technological, economic, and legal advances in order to history, but especially now. I mean, Pence looks crazy as fuck because he was damn near the norm just 50 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll transition over to Islam. Does this not play too? Oh man, this is not playing.
Oh man.
But we can still have discussion about it.
Okay, so this is basically in San Bernardino, where essentially this was after that shooting, and so he's like, we're going to do a complete shutdown of all Muslims coming into the country. And this is the Muslim day. And this one, all right, this one's basically in Alabama during that special Senate race for Ward 1. And basically he's like, in Birmingham, he's like, you know what, we could do some extra, security, extra, put the, extra security, kind of like extra surveillance on the Muslim community. And he's talking about that, like, maybe we should surveil some of these mosques and stuff.
I watched last night, and I watched a president, truly, that didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know why he was there. He refuses to use the term radical Islamic terrorism. He refuses to use the term. I don't even know if he knows what the hell's going on. I really don't. Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on. A poll from Center for Security Policy released data showing 25% of those polled agreed that violence against Americans, these are people that are here, by the way, people here, 25, not 1%. By the way, 1% would be unacceptable. 1% is unacceptable. 25% of those polled agreed that violence against Americans here in the United States is justified as part, think of that, as part of the global jihad. Until we are able to determine and understand this problem and the dangerous threat it poses, our country cannot be the victim of horrendous attacks by people that believe only in jihad.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump once again ratcheted up his rhetoric on Muslims living in America, American Muslims. Trump had spent the past couple of days backing off of his response to multiple reporter questions about the database of American Muslims that he said would be a good idea. But today, at an event in Birmingham, Alabama, he said he wanted surveillance of Muslims. Listen.
So here's the story, just to set it clear. I want surveillance of these people. I want surveillance if we have to, and I don't care. Are you ready for this, folks? Are you ready? Oh, they're going to make it such a big deal. They're going to make it so big. He said something so politically incorrect. That's why we're going to hell, because we're so politically incorrect. Such a big deal. Such a big deal. I want surveillance of certain mosques, okay? If that's okay. I want surveillance. And you know what? We've had it before and we'll have it again.
Do you think Islam is at war with the West?
I think Islam hates us. There's something There's something there that there's a tremendous hatred there. There's a tremendous hatred. We have to get to the bottom of it. There is an unbelievable hatred of us.
In Islam itself?
You're going to have to figure that out, okay? You'll get another Pulitzer. Right? You're going to have to figure that out. There is a tremendous hatred, and we have to be very vigilant. We have to be very careful, and we can't allow people coming into this country who have this hatred of the United States and of people that are not Muslim.
I guess the question is there a war between the West and radical Islam, or is there a war between the West and Islam?
It's radical, but it's very hard to define. It's very hard to separate because you don't know who's who.
It's really honest. More fundamentalism.
Does radicalism
Basically, this is Trump's order done by Steve.
But like, my question is, he didn't even know what like Muslim doctrine to point out. And
Nope,
say,
yeah.
He didn't have any facts or statistics. He's like, we're in a war against Islam.
You'll find out.
Well, I mean, you can't really define radical Islam.
You can't define radical
Yeah,
Islam.
it's called fundamentalism.
This time there's no cap.
Yeah, so he mentioned that 25% number.
I don't know where he got that from. What source, how accurate that is.
I mean, it's probably an alternate fact.
Take Trump's fact with a grain of
25%
salt.
of those polled, so you always have to realize that it's of who was
Right.
polled.
He specified absolutely nothing about who was polled.
So,
Now that we missed it.
You want to go back?
Would you consider yourself a public?
Saying new vetting measures to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of the United States of America. We don't want them here.
One of the first policies he completely failed on.
I mean, well, actually, he got to succeed eventually. There's a Muslim ban.
It just ended like.
Yeah, it just ended.
Oh, yeah, there was.
Yeah.
We want to ensure that we are not admitting into our country the very threats our soldiers are fighting overseas. We only want to admit those into our country who will support our country and love deeply our people.
There's such a this is the problem with talking to Trump is depressing.
We only have 3 years.
That's the entire time we'll be in college.
Yeah, we're dead. We're dead.
I don't know what the post-Trump world will look like.
Won't be good.
ACLU. You're just
That's an even bigger problem.
Yeah.
We gotta ban. We gotta ban.
We gotta
piracy.
bet your we definitely gotta bet what's coming into your computer now.
We gotta
We gotta
build a wall.
deport some files.
We need the Great Wall of like.
We need a great firewall.
Yeah.
We need to port some files. They're
bringing drugs.
Some of them
They're
are
bringing
rapists.
crimes.
They're murderers. Some of them are good files.
those green books.
I'm pretty sure that the leader isn't even a U.S. citizen. He was born somewhere in Kenya.
To be fair to Trump on this executive order, those same 7 countries were done on like a ban list by Obama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I guess part of the reason why people have this hoopla is because Trump caused it by himself when he said that back at San Bernardino. This is where I guess sometimes his mouth gets him in trouble.
He doesn't know how to phrase things or like speak.
Yeah.
Like he knows how to speak, but his phrasing is terrible.
But does Trump have a point?
I mean,
Yeah, he does.
It depends. When like I was saying, when it came to radical Islam, you can't define radical Islam because it's only fundamental Islam and those Muslims who have said, no, I'm not going to believe that we should just kill everybody who's not a member of Islam.
Yeah.
Because that is in the Quran. You shall wage war upon those.
I'm an ex-Muslim atheist. I kind of know what
Yes.
you're saying. But let's go continue the presentation because Trump actually sucks the succubus out of everything.
Yeah.
He
Does
kinda
go on some Pew Research?
Pew Research is very reliable, so I always like
What's his
to
name?
read it. Pew Research. So
Oh.
this is kind of like one of the biggest studies in the world.
Look, I get it.
in the Islamic world. Essentially, you're learning how Muslims do Sharia and everything. So Sharia as the word of God, which is essentially Islamic law. So there's a lot of aspects to it. There's like, you know, certain like parts of your income that, you know, help go to the poor and like for charity purposes, and there's also like those people of the book, which is like Christians and Jews. You can coexist in a Muslim society. You just have to pay a tax.
Jizya.
Yeah. But there's also like the homosexuality can be killed. And you also have like apostates being killed. That's kind of in there too. So
I believe we should go back to the days of the Janissaries. Every Christian boy will become a member of the military, and he will serve.
But like,
hold on. Let's actually discuss some of the data.
Wait a second, that actually works really well for some countries.
It worked well for the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah, it did.
How they view Sharia as it developed by man based on the Word of God or the revealed Word of God itself. You can see they base it on Southeastern Europe and the Balkans. Then they have Central Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, and the Middle East, North Africa region. As you can tell, most of them do believe with Albania actually being probably the only kind of the first and kind of only like truly atheist state. Wow, Albania? Yeah.
Albania. Why don't we name that the Republic of Atheist Republic?
How are you classifying
Because
an
ethnic
atheist state in that
Albania.
case, and how far back is it?
Basically kind of like a secular state was to say we separate these.
Okay, America's in theory a secular
Atheism is
state.
kind of like
Like
let me use an example. So you know in the Pledge of Allegiance they have like under God.
Yeah.
Secularists will like to just remove that phrase like how
Original founders.
and atheists say under no God.
Really?
You see.
Does Albania do something like that?
Well, they come back from communism. It goes back.
I think the Czech Republic is number one in terms of
Yeah.
the sole percentage. I think is the Czech.
Yeah, Czech.
And then I know, like in Scandinavia, church attendance is really low.
Okay, so interpreting Sharia. So now this is probably a more important topic. Kind of goes back to what you were talking about a little bit earlier. How many interpretations are there? So is there like the fundamentalist interpretation or the less fundamentalist interpretation? So it seems like in general, like actually, it seems like the Middle East actually tends to be multiple interpretations of Sharia, while everywhere else seems to be more dominated towards there's only one interpretation of Sharia, which is right. And you're kind of raised your hand a little bit.
Yeah, it's but going on what you said about the interpretations and what you said about certain mosques. I mean, I forget what what it was, but there's apparently a mosque in London who some of the guys who went on a terror attack or joined ISIS were actually told and like encouraged by the leader of the mosque. So him saying certain mosques, if you look at it on a smaller scale, it could make sense. But then again, you can provide numbers or like what the basis would be.
Yeah.
So like what we're dealing with is someone who can use like. He can say the right things and say stuff that won't piss too many people off, but he can leave out the details and get away with a lot of shit like that.
Yeah.
I just want to slightly further his point. There's a great documentary on the subject matter. It's only like it's under 2 hours. It's called The Jihad Next Door. It focuses on UK radical Muslims, and basically you have these people who say, "I love ISIS. I want to be a part of ISIS," and you know the government actually refuses to let them leave the country, which seems very, very odd. But I suppose it's because they don't want them killing
Joining
people.
ISIS and shooting people.
Because basically what happened when they come back.
Yeah. So
What if they come back?
another good one is Religious by Bill Maher. That one's just good because it shits on every religion the whole time. And it's just hilarious.
Does it shit on Buddhism?
We're
It
secular
sits on
people, we
everything.
believe in there's no secret every religion's included in all this. So Sharia in the law of the land. So it depends on where you are, basically how Muslims view Sharia. So basically especially if some of these countries are not all Muslim, like Kenya, they have a large Christian population, and this is a percentage of Muslims in those countries that believe Sharia law should be the law. So it's very interesting. So, as you can see, the influence of communism in Central Asia and Southeast Europe has a damper kind of like radical, I'd say more, how should I say it? It's like Sharia law desirability compared to other regions. So,
Afghanistan.
I think it's important also when looking at the statistics to think about the actual percentage of Muslims of the population? Because in the U.S., I imagine maybe
Yeah,
like,
that's 1%, but most of
you know, there's zero chance of Sharia law taking over the
Yeah,
United
that's what I'm
States,
saying.
but a lot of
Yeah.
Muslims in the U.S. they believe that because they're like less than 1%.
Yeah.
So like with Russia, it says 42% of Muslims
But-
want, but that doesn't mean 42% of the country wants.
I know, but that's just the Muslim population. But then you have countries like Iraq, which is like majority Muslim, so that has a different meaning.
And is this Sunni or
Um,
Shia? Because
That's what I was
that's
wondering.
very-
Is it Sunni or Shia belief, or is it like all Muslims?
I think
regardless
it's
of
Muslims in
denomination?
general because for the most part, Sharia law kind of is similar between the two sects.
Okay.
I mean, a big important thing to notice about this poll is that the U.S. and Western Europe are very conspicuously absent.
Yeah,
Not Latin America.
Because I feel because basically, if I read into it, it's kind of based on what a significant, which is kind of like I'd say 15%.
So they need a big enough sample.
Yes, they want a good sample.
Oh, so I was just about to mention. So, is it a matter of statistical significance when
Yeah.
it comes to us?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
because like
we're 1%.
the West and
Muslims are
Latin
1%.
America.
And I'm not sure, but, and of course I don't have my glasses, of course, but correct me if I'm wrong, but why is Saudi Arabia conspicuously
Yeah, that's what I was
absent?
wondering.
Well, Saudi Arabia already has Sharia law in the first place, and they
Yeah.
probably cannot. Pew
Oh
Yeah, women just got the right to drive cars.
and Pew might not be able to go to Saudi Arabia, so you can't get
Yeah.
data on places you can't
That's
go.
true. And of course it was, the notorious country missing from the original ban.
Mhm.
I mean,
so that's nice to know.
I mean, let's be honest. Trump was told not to do that because it's already
I agree.
And if Hillary would have done the same thing if she had a ban, because
No,
we
I
already know
agree.
she has ties
'Cause,
to
yeah,
Saudi
no,
Arabia.
Yeah, she had a
'Cause that's-
Clinton Foundation and all that.
That's what I'm saying. That's their
That's
their
just plain
bankroll.
politics right there.
That's their bankroll.
Yeah, that's
So
just
anyway,
plain politics.
let's focus on the presentation. We can talk about Hillary Clinton shenanigans later.
Dun, dun, dun.
So
You'll never get away,
Muslims were
kids.
more likely if they were Sharia. No, of course, more religious people. And the differences are quite surprising. Like places like Lebanon and like, in Morocco, some of these places with high, Muslim populations, it's pretty like 37%, like 27%. Like these are huge numbers. Like,
I thought Lebanon was an Arab Christian state.
yeah, by Muslim,
It's like nearly everyone in Pakistani and Turk.
Palestinian, that's what it is. So it should apply to Muslims and non-Muslims. So the dark green is all citizens, and the light green is just Muslims only. It provides a little bit more interesting data because it seems like a lot of these countries, particularly that are not in the Middle East, say this should be a Muslim-only thing. For example, Bangladesh has 60%. So like basically 3/5 of the Muslims say Christians shouldn't have to be subjected to it. While you have places like Egypt that say no, 3/4 of this poll sample to say, yep, they should, even though they're not Muslim.
Egypt.
Which is a little interesting, which goes into that kind of like idea that radical Islam and all creeping Sharia.
That they're going to take us over.
So another one is religious judges distribute like property and marriage stuff, and that goes by religious group as well.
No.
And as you can clearly tell, most of them agree.
Where's Britain on this?
And
Yeah, but you were thinking
disputes, and there's like
But, like,
a famous line in Islam, which is true by the way, that it was like one man's testimony is worth 2 women's testimony. So basically, one woman is half of a man's testimony.
Does that sound familiar to anyone?
Yeah. It does.
So corporal punishment for theft or robbery. So basically, if you don't know, in Saudi Arabia, like an example of a great Sharia state, they chop your hand off if you steal.
Oh, that reminds me in Aladdin.
Oh, no, they
that
rape
Jasmine.
Yep.
If you're a woman.
I didn't say.
Oh, let's not go there. But basically,
Go Jurgis!
so basically, it shows how they view corporal crime.
No, yeah, we're still talking about that.
It just shows that not all Muslim states, even like majority of a lot of these states even support it. So it shows that not everyone's on the bandwagon. So for certain things, so it's a little interesting on that front. And there's the penalty for adultery, which is stoning. And so you can see, like, the more religious certain countries are, like Lebanon, Tunisia, they have less than half. Bangladesh also has significantly reduced compared to the other
Turkey.
two South Asian countries, Pakistan and Afghanistan. I guess we'll go Bangladesh, trying to
Go Bangladesh.
Go Afghanistan, man.
I'm from my family's from Bangladesh, by the way. So, and I could give you a little bit of personal anecdote on this. Our independence movement was a secularist movement, and that's why the Islamist side of it was Pakistan, and we had a coup in 1975, and they were banned originally. They're called Jamiat al-Islam. Now today they're like a minority political.
That's good. Keep all that extreme
So our
shit
parliamentary
out.
democracies for you.
Turkey also is really
Splee.
Turkey, what?
Yeah, because like Turkey is also a secular state.
Yeah, so of course you see that.
Theoretically.
So now we have the apostasy.
Erdogan.
And you can see like it's more concentrated in the Middle East, North Africa region, those who believe the death penalty for those who are apostates. And in South Asia, so for Bangladesh again with like 30%.
Go Bangladesh.
Yeah.
By the way, my dad talked about it. We had a terrorist attack like a few years back in this very like basically cosmopolitan part of Dhaka, our capital city. And so basically what they did is they did like a massive crackdown, and it was let's just say most people would definitely consider due process rights were completely violated, but we haven't had anything since. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I personally feel like due process rights should be observed in all cases, but so now how they view, how they closely follow their laws, country laws, like follow Sharia, and it seems like certain countries they seem to follow a lot more than others. Like, for example, not so much in the Southeast Europe and former Soviet states.
I'm surprised about Iraq.
Iraq was kind of secular, but the Ba'ath Party was secular.
Because
that's
like
a whole other conversation.
56% is like somewhat closely and then not too closely.
Maybe it's more somewhat than fair.
Yeah.
Curious how in Albania, 48% of people have no idea how closely.
Because it goes back to communism, religion is suppressed, and maybe what happens is because Albania was a communist state, but it was not like directly under Soviet influence. It kind of
Was it a puppet state?
But it's basically we're allied with y'all, but we kind of do our own thing. It's kind of like Yugoslavia. So yeah, so maybe that goes with it, and that kind of goes with my first atheist state comment. So
Was Albania part of the Yugoslavia?
No, it was never part of Yugoslavia.
Okay.
It was its own thing.
I know, but it was in the same geographic area.
Yeah. So now, is it good for Muslims to follow or not follow? As you can tell, there's a lot of neither, don't, no, and it's very interesting that do not follow certain regions of the world, notably Pakistan, seems to be a lot more zealous about their religion.
Yeah. That's concerning.
And even countries like
Indonesia.
Yeah, like what do you think about all this data?
I'm not
I know that's a lot of data process, but what do you think overall? Anyone got any certain ideas?
I think that like it shows us that just because some people believe in this law doesn't mean they believe in it in like the way we think they do.
Yep. Those are actually the texts.
I mean, I'm surprised about Iraq actually, like 37%. I don't know. It's not
Anyone else have any
that
thoughts? Yeah, you.
Not only do I agree with him, I would also say that it's not. This is obvious, but it's not solely religion that causes the disparity in beliefs. Because of our military-industrial complex, we're actually helping either create jihadists in some countries, or we're just destabilizing these countries so badly that they become more insular.
They become more unstable. That allows you.
Definitely unstable.
Bombs blew up my house. Who blew up my house?
Americans.
Yeah. Oh, all three of my wives got shot. Who shot them? Us.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think
that's what I'm
people
saying. Yeah,
And that's what happened in Iraq, pretty much.
I'm sorry.
Because basically, after we left,
it's still happening. It happened
like,
in Libya.
if you're
It
a
happened.
spokesperson, I don't think
It's happening in Yemen.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
or from palsy. However, though, we got some more interesting data. This is from Pew also, but it's on CNN, basically covering it, and basically saying
You can
the Muslims are becoming more liberal.
You can unplug your.
And when they mean liberal, they mean like more basically Democrat. And so this Pew, American Muslims, suspected communities.
So
in
survey
Congo. So the Muslims are very worried about Donald Trump and what's going to mean for them. So 64% of Muslim Americans told Pew that Obama was kind of friendly towards Muslims, and half were satisfied with the direction of the country. That radically has changed through this. And now homosexuality, I think I've mentioned this in a previous meeting, but in 2007, 27% of American Muslims approved of homosexuality. Now this year, which is I think 2017, 52%. That's almost double. That
50
is
plus one.
actually much higher than a group than, say, like evangelical Christians, which rose around, I think it was around the same number, but to 34%. That's only 7 percentage points versus,
I thought a lot of these people were like our age or some close to our age, so that's why I thought.
Well,
But they don't like us Westerners. We keep changing their ideas. They can't stay in their old ways.
They can't
Well, a
stay.
lot of them are coming over here to escape that shit too.
Yeah,
that's true.
And a lot of them are probably raised here and they have like more westernized beliefs.
Yeah, so you got a lot of reasons why that would change versus Viagen. The E guys who were raised not to believe in that here.
Yeah. So likewise, 10 years ago. So this also talks about more one way to interpret Islam than that fundamentalist. When they mean that, it's usually fundamentalist interpretation. And it was 57% 10 years ago. Today it's 64%. So it's increasing. So I think it's very interesting that American Muslims at least are being more pluralistic and more open to various interpretations, which I think is a good thing. I think we can all agree. So now, more Muslims identify as liberal than in 2007, slightly, 30%. Nearly 2/3 are Democrats, and similar numbers show government should provide more services. And so, about essentials of faith, which is basically kind of getting to the meats and bones of this. Like most Christians, they believe that believing God's the most important issue, but working for social justice, 69% believe that's very important. Protecting the environment, 62% believe that's also very important, which is very interesting. And there's some debate, actually, among American Muslims about increasing liberalism on issues like homosexuality. Is this due to immigration and or the rise of native-born millennials who are like just following the trends of their non-Muslim peers, more tolerant of their LGBT
Muslim
community? And so I think this kind of goes into other elections where they say, oh, the Muslims are not integrating, like the Muslims are having problems, and like Donald Trump was kind of alluding to it. The data, at least in the United States, does show, on the contrary, I think we're doing...
Mipsters are a thing.
Yeah. Well,
I think
who are foreign-born, though, Muslim millennials, should be accepted. 60 versus 49 versus both groups saw. So basically, what it's saying right here is Muslim millennials who actually were foreign-born, not foreign-born, basically are more likely, but still they both increase more than 20 percentage points. So basically the millennial Muslims would be 40% and the foreign-born would be 29%. Increase that by 20 points. That shows that.
So it shows us contrary to what has been portrayed on the news that they're not integrating.
And so, after the Paul shooting, this is talking about how Muslims came out of that. Muslims were coming out of the closet in the United States and in the Muslim community. So basically, people were coming out as gay to their Muslim peers.
Can you? I don't know how that works. Yeah, can.
So yeah,
that's mutually exclusive.
Yeah, that's very controversial to get into that because LGBTQ community in Muslim majority nations are not often treated the best. But however, a professor of Islamic history, Isam Akbi at the University of Kentucky, cautions, is this actually signaling support for another group that's often marginalized in America? Kind of like, the idea is, say, like Jews, they've been marginalized in America for a while before, like, but like for a while they were, especially when they immigrated here. Therefore, as you see, Jewish Americans are often in the forefront of civil rights. They were in the civil rights movement, like the women's rights movement, the gay rights movement. So there is this tradition that may be solidarity for each other due to marginalization.
So the enemy of the enemy is my friend.
And also, we're going to get into a gender gap, talking about how they perceive discrimination in their country, in the U.S. Muslim women are more likely, probably due because religious women wear the hijab, and the hijab is very recognizable. Even though, like, the headscarf is a concept that's shared in other religions such as Judaism. Like, if you actually see some photos in World War II, like, of Jews going into these concentration camps, you see some, like, particularly the older like women, they're wearing like headscarves. So it's kind of interesting. And they're also much more likely to say that Trump angers them, 54-37. And significantly less likely to believe Americans are friendly towards Muslims.
It kind of doesn't
so that's fantastic. So they're also more likely to condemn extremism. More than 8 out of 10 American Muslims said they're at least somewhat concerned in the name of Islam. 10% point increase in 5 years. And so there's little, if any, support. So there's like 3 out of 4 said there's any support. Like, they basically asked, do you know anyone who supports this? Like, American extremism? No. So 6% said there's a great deal, and 11%. So that's very minute. And even though that might sound concerning, since this is such a, as Donald Trump said, probably he said something right about it. It was like 1% is too much, but we're talking about like 3 million people. That's 1% of the population. I'll get to you once we finish this, all right? Okay, and there's some silver linings, and nearly half of American Muslims said someone expressed support for them because of their religion during the past year. So basically, in solidarity, say Trump says something really bad, or somebody else says something really bad, there'll be somebody, half of these people have said, there's somebody who said, you're welcome, pretty much, in a nutshell. And so 9 out of 10 of these people kind of basically believe in the American dream. If you work hard, you can achieve success. So, and Muslim Americans have expressed persistence between optimism, positivity. This is from the study. Overwhelmingly, they are proud to be Americans. They believe hard work generally brings success in the country, or satisfied of the way that things are going in their own lives. Even though the country, they're not excited with this direction of the country. And I know you want to say something. Want to say something right now?
So the 11% said a fair amount. Does that mean like, oh, there's only a little bit of it, or are they saying it's like, there could be more?
That's usually based on polling statistics. You don't poll 3 million people. That would be the most accurate. But basing on, they probably did some algorithms and some of the, I have a political research.
This is 1,001.
Yes, but actually 1,500 can actually get you a reasonable sample size of the whole population. In political research methods class, we talk about this. So it's interesting if you really think about it. Any other comments about this in comparison with this Pew Research study with the other one we talked about earlier? Because basically the other one's bringing up the question, should we really be bringing people who kind of believe in some of these ideas, but then at the same time,
they're integrating something?
What does this show? Because I think the numbers show a more complex, gray picture that's more gray than black and white, as Trump would like to make us believe. Which brings a whole slew of questions. Okay, this is a round robin thing. So I basically will be the last person to talk. And since we went this way, I think we'll go this way this time, just to hear it, everyone. So a lot of this comes from Islamic terrorism, and that's been mentioned multiple times. So it doesn't have to be 90 seconds, but it can just be however you feel. Discuss how it should be done to address this, and how Islam has a connection to all of this, and see how society views on Islam affects Muslims and vice versa. Kind of like, what do you think about what can be done to actually solve kind of the radical extreme issue, and how it affects our politics, and how should we address it? Does Donald Trump have some points here or there, but is he not addressing it properly, or do you think he's just completely wrong?
A lot of it is more how we're treating them and like our interactions overseas, like we were saying before, how a lot of our military actions kind of piss people off and make them not like America, and we need to consider better ways of interacting with them so that they have a more positive view of us, and then so that we aren't treating them as bad, and then that can help with, for the ones that do come over here, help them assimilate more, and then there will be less people who kind of agree with the extreme parts that will attack us.
I agree with that. I think maybe as to like what we as non-Muslims can do information. I don't think people know enough about Islam to properly judge. I mean, I don't think I do. I guess just all these misconceptions, something has to be done to counter them and dispel the myths.
Similarly, I think that the way we treat Muslims in general, sort of treating them like dangerous animals, doesn't add to, or doesn't do anything but add to the problem that we have. Because if you treat somebody like they're going to kill you, they might eventually consider it. On top of that, I don't think Trump's the whole Muslim ban thing is really honestly going to help, because if somebody really wants to get to the U.S., they're going to figure out a way to get to the U.S.
I mean, I guess the whole thing with this Muslim thing, I mean, I feel like if we try to, I guess, I don't know, be more, I guess, more understanding of what, I mean, you know, what they're, I guess, where they're coming from, I guess, in a way, to try to understand, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Danny, do you have someplace? Yeah. Yeah. Well, so whatever, you know, what I'm trying to say.
So basically, much I agree with her that I think what we really need to about Muslims is more information and more sites like CNN and Pew. I know it's unrealistic as it is to share accurate data, and foreign policy wise, I think that it's a real convoluted mess, and that we should start by just like trying to understand the people of those local countries as most as possible and their ideals.
Basically.
Where do I begin?
That's why I was trying to answer.
I would say that on a personal level, I need to reinvigorate my own studying of Islam. My understanding of just sort of how Islam came to be in different
countries.
Not only in different countries, but also like different forms of Islamic philosophy, especially when it comes to law. I think that's one of the main reasons why I became an atheist in the first place. So I need to do a better job of getting back to studying Islam, not just by befriending and talking to Muslims like I used to, but also reading as much as I can, and making sure that I'm fully informed about what I'm talking about. And then on a political and economic level, we've got to stop producing asylum seekers. The end. We need to reduce the military budget by minimum 50% and have that redistributed to
education.
Yeah, education, environment, all that other stuff. And we also need to reduce our reliance on the petrodollar. Period. The end.
We have.
Basically, everything said before, especially what you said, like you got it right on. Definitely need to change our treatment of Muslim Americans and Islam abroad and how we view it. It definitely needs to be more positive, because all it's producing right now is negative consequences. Until things get better, I suppose we can have more vetting for immigrants to keep the conservatives happy, but it's
really hard.
It's really just better treatment and better understanding and loving of one another that's going to bring change.
First, I'd like to say I very strongly agree with. I apologize, I don't know your name. The purple shirt.
It's not tea.
All right, yeah, I very strongly agree with your views on, say, how the size of the military can lead to a lot of refugees, which can definitely, hurt. But I personally think there definitely is an issue with, the quote-unquote radical Islamic terrorism. But I feel there's a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of, Christians who want to look at how barbaric Islam is, but don't want to look at their own beliefs and their own religion. So I definitely have an issue with, radical Islamic terrorism, the homophobia, transphobia, sexism that comes from it. But I also have just as much an issue with it from Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, and all the other religions. So I definitely think we do need to address Islam, but we can't just address them. We have to address all the issues, because when you just focus on Islam, it kind of, I don't want to say it's based off of racism, but there's definitely a lot of, people who are scared of, the scary foreigners and don't want to look at their own beliefs, when sometimes their beliefs are just as bad.
What can I say that? I expect there are some people who are generally nothing, judging space between looking out for the interests of minority groups or minority religions in particular, as well as being critical of religious institutions and general conservative philosophy or politics, and in particular, that intersection, obviously, with the event that's coming up next week, how I think criticism from Muslims regarding all of the speakers are ex-Muslims and so aren't active participants within the community, but are nevertheless affected by beliefs within Islam, and how to engage that space where we respect other people, but also can make commentary and criticism.
Alright, so I want to say I kind of agree with what you say about the military spending and how it should be cut down, but I don't believe we should go down to 25% spending right now. I think we should go down to somewhere around 35, because if we try to cut down to 25, we're just going to support that at all. As conservatives. And honestly, you could really hit those by just making it more efficient, because we spend too much money on because the way the military spends, it has contracts with businesses who are allowed to charge whatever the fuck they want now. But going off of that into the actual things, I see this more as a problem with religion in general, because when Donald Trump says we should watch certain mosques, I agree, but we should also watch certain churches like Westboro Baptist, who have been the guys who have been going for abortion clinics, saying we should bomb the shit out of those. It's more of a problem with what Danny and Kevin said. It's we have a problem with the way religion has allowed radical people from each front to go there, because they can't do it themselves and allow them to keep their image at times. So it kind of needs to be watched for that. And I also agree that vetting isn't going to do much of a damn problem, seeing because most of the Islamic terrorists that we've had attack have been people who were born here and were turned into it by propaganda from ISIS. So you kind of need more of that watchful eye, and as much as I hate to say this, we need the FBI to start looking at this stuff. I mean, you can't agree with the FBI because secret police almost, but I mean, at some point, in some dire situations, it can help. And for the most part, there's no easy way to get around this. There's no easy way of say build a wall. There's no easy way of extreme vetting. There's no easy way of saying mental health. There's no easy way of saying in Muslims. There's only the hard ways of saying hey, there's got to be a very concrete way, and we can't just sit around and do it and saying all these simple measures are going to fill up everything and make everything a sunshine land.
Okay. I want to recommend an article. It's by Ali Rizvi. It's called Guns, Terrorism, and Honesty. Maurice, have you seen this before?
No, but I actually seen different articles by him on Vox that came out today.
Okay. All right. It's pretty short. You can, if you could pull it up.
We really don't have time. It's 8 o'clock.
Yeah, we really don't have time.
Okay. All right. I'll just say it gives you a list of statements, and some of them appear to lean left, and some of them appear to lean right. But he says, "Tell which of these statements you agree with," and so
Could you post it in the group?
Yeah, I can do
That'd
that.
be really
Awesome.
Good. What's in the official group me? Because I lost some names.
Yeah, sure. I think you guys have a really good understanding of what's going on here. To add to that, I think anything we can do to mitigate this us versus them thinking is going to be helpful. Even though we can't make laws or anything, having discussions like this where it's open forum, we can talk about things that aren't right, things that we do like, that kind of stuff. Doing things like this event next Friday, next Wednesday, opportunities for people to come together where they may disagree. That's how we learn things. We get out of our echo chambers. We learn to love people. I think that would be good.
I feel like anything that is discriminatory, any laws that are discriminatory should not be allowed to pass, and it's horrific that some people even present them and use religion to back them up. And that being said, I think the only way to combat this kind of ideology in America is through education. I'm obviously biased because I'm a teacher, but
Education is the only way to change.
yeah, I do think education is the only way to change things on this type of a scale. And I know that's not specific, but we don't really have time to go into it.
Yeah, you're right
So
though.
I'm gonna do
Education.
I'm gonna make this really quick. I'm actually ex-Muslim and kind of happy to hear everyone's opinion. I really like what you said because I think you kind of say it best. Like we do, like I feel like there are, from my personal experience, I'll make it really quick. A lot of times the imams, they usually talk about, oh, you should be more devoted to your spiritual path, not to the Western, to this consumerism and the goodness of this world, because you have an afterlife. And so basically, that, but I understand what you're saying, like radical preachers. And I like the idea that if you're going to do it to one faith, you're going to do it to all, because there are some, that doesn't mean, but I think that actually goes into our thing on Friday, when they talk about, you know, protecting the civil rights of Muslims and civil liberties, and the spying of one group over another. But if you want to hear more, we can talk about after the meeting.
Yeah, proposing.
So we're almost done. So this is Judaism.
Oh, we're gonna talk about the Jewish problem next.
Oh no, we're just going to talk about Mr. Netanyahu.
Should we allow them to live?
So for a nutshell,
Oh God, you're going over it.
for a nutshell, basically Donald Trump, after meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu last September,
Yes.
he basically was like, oh, we're going to move Jerusalem, the capital. We're going to recognize the capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And the big controversy around that is the holy city of three of the major faiths: Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, which is. And plus, that region is already divided between like East Jerusalem is Palestinian land, West is kind of like Israeli. So since if you're going to claim the whole city as your capital, how does that do in plain tactics? It's been a tactic of U.S. foreign policies to not to do that, and moreover, which is kind of interesting.
Is that issue?
Can we turn that into kind of like a Vatican C thing, make it its own like little?
That's what I.
So you would propose making Jerusalem its own nation?
No, it's a neutral ground. Removing it from Israel, no nation, just one government.
Yeah, but like the thing is that
sounds like a country. But anyway.
Yeah, kind of.
The Vatican is a country.
But it'd be too small to have its own military state.
Yeah, but
So and basically also with that as well. This is actually kind of funny because in the primaries, Trump basically was at a Republican Jewish conference. And so he's like, oh, I'm neutral on the issue.
He's neutral.
And like, the United States does not have a neutral issue on this issue, but we're really pro-Israel.
Awesome.
Yeah. I love God though.
Yeah, so
Wonder Woman.
what do y'all think?
You need to watch this.
So wait, sorry, were you playing?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I actually did a structured debate on this exact thing, whether the embassy should be moved. I think I was like told which side to argue, so I'm honestly going to be biased, but I think basically it shouldn't be moved because it's not really doing that much harm being where it is currently, but a lot of terrorists have specifically said you move it, there's going to be a war. There's going to be a third intifada. We're going to kill people if we move it, so I think it's kind of just, there isn't really much benefit of moving it, but there's a lot of risk.
It's really hard too, because like Jerusalem was capital of Judaism.
Any other thoughts over here?
We need to stop giving money to Israel.
I mean, I have a really complicated.
Here we go!